is the options for action. The actual planning process of what various actions can be taken to accomplish the objectives that everyone has agreed upon should naturally take precedence over the goal setting stage. This involves identifying resources both inside and outside the community, as well as individuals or groups who can carry them out. Next is the consensus and action. Reaching an agreement on a course of action can also result in disagreement or lack of commitment. At this point, it's critical to gauge how well the community is advancing the problem solution by continuing to look for resources and handling dispute in a constructive way. Next is the action plan. A specific timetable for when each activity needs to be accomplished will help the community to have clear deadlines for effectively moving toward the solution of the problem. Next is the assignment of responsibilities. Specific people and groups should take responsibility for conducting each activity as defined in the action plan. Next is the mobilizations of organizations. Existing organizations, both inside and outside the community, may be asked to participate in the community action project. Depending on the scope and nature of the issue, it is likely that the community will be more committed to the program or problem-solving effort the more resources it mobilizes. Next is the implementation. This step deals with carrying out the action plan and keeping an eye on it. In the event that some operations do not go as planned, backup plans should be implemented to prevent the action plan from being cut short. Next is the outcomes. This step refers to the actual results that the community is able to achieve. And lastly, participatory evaluation. The accomplished results could not match the community's initial goals when they set out to attain them. Comparing the results to the initial goals is a crucial step in the self-evaluation process. Community dialogue and action process matrices. The assessment of community dialogue and action can be done through direct observation, focus group discussions, and interviews with key leaders. If the evaluator cannot monitor the process, notes should be made to better document community dynamics. To use matrices, a community profile should be conducted through grouped interviews during fieldwork. Two matrices, one for community dialogue and one for collective action, should be designed to record the community's progress in addressing issues. Each problem should be addressed separately, providing a single picture of progress. And here is a sample of community dialogue matrix, and let us discuss each part. So first, pointed by the red arrow is the problem code. The community's problem matrix derived from their community profile, helps identify related information matrices, and facilitates cross-referencing with related documents, enabling efficient problem resolution and problem description. And next is the start date. Write the date that the dialogue and action process starts or started in the community for the specific problem. The date of the community's dialogue and action processes for a specific problem may be pre-existing, possibly before the investigator or observer arrived. Next is the end date. Write the date when the dialogue and the action processes ended for that specific problem. If the process is still ongoing, leave it blank. The first column of this community dialogue matrix is the stages in the process. The first column of each matrix contains the stages in the process of community dialogue and collective action, respectively as described in the Communication for Social Change model. Next is the occurrence. Mark if the specific stage occurred. It may be that for some cases, the community skips some of these stages. It may also be that the community process follows a different order. Make a note indicating if the stages were skipped and if the community went back to them later. So next is the change agent. Write the name of the change agent, if there is any, that participated in each specific stage. Note whether the change agent comes from within or outside the community. Next is the key leaders. Record the number and names of key leaders involved in each stage. Next is the leader identification. Write the identification number of the leaders involved in each stage. This information comes from the list of leaders prepared during the community profile analysis. Next is the participants count. Write the total number of the community members that participated in each stage, include both men and women. And next is the participants' gender. Write the total number of men and women that participated in each stage. This column will give the ratio of men to women participants, which may in fact be different for each stage and each type of problem being addressed. So, next column is the participants group. Record the names and total number of groups involved in each stage. Next column is the group identification. Write the identification number of the groups involved in each stage. This information comes from the list of groups prepared during the community profile analysis. This information will tell us whether or not the most affected groups are being involved in the different stages of the dialogue and action process. So next column is the dialogue context. Indicate for each stage the context in which community members undertook any dialogue. So next column is the disagreement or conflict. At each stage in the process, indicate whether any disagreement or conflict arose. Use the quotes at the bottom of the column to indicate the level of disagreement. Next is the how it is resolved. Use the quotes at the bottom of the column to indicate the manner in which any disagreement or conflict was resolved at each stage in the process. And next is the decision process. If a decision is made at any step in the process, indicate it by marking the number corresponding to the method used to make the decision. And lastly, a specific outcome. For some stages of the dialogue and action process, the community may produce some specific outcomes or documents. And lastly, constraints and support boxes. Use the two boxes below each matrix to describe any constraints or supports affecting the community's progress with each problem, including external political pressure, lack of resources, and financial support. It also discusses the community's response and planned actions with additional notes on each stage. Each cell in the matrix can be treated as a variable for purposes of data analysis. The entry from each cell should be entered into a database under an appropriate variable name. And that's the end of my report. Thank you so much for listening.